Hey there, this is Leah Lindeman. This is where you come for all things books, writing, motherhood, and how you marry the two effectively. Today we are going to be taking a look at an interview that I did with Dyane Forde. She is the creator and founder of Lost Pen Magazine, a Christian art lit magazine that is open to submissions right now. And we're going to take a look at her journey from the conception of the magazine to actually putting it together to now her second issue, which is coming out in February 3rd. I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot of great stories of triumphing over rejection and putting together something that's part of your passion. And I hope you're inspired by her as
Comes to
much
your
as I
mind.
was.
So yeah, tell me a little bit first about yourself, like where you grew up, how did
Mm.
you get into writing? Because that's what you started with, right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, grew up in Montreal. I've always lived here. South Shore, Montreal, Laval, pretty much the whole greater Montreal area.
Okay.
Um, and I guess in terms of writing, I've just always enjoyed it. I mean, from the time I was really young, I loved books. I learned to read really young and just kind of been fascinated with the whole getting through a book, and just all the things that you experience, the things you read, um, just the imagination, everything. And so even in elementary school, I knew that the one thing I wanted to do. Oh, are you still there? Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay, perfect. Okay. The one thing I wanted to do for sure was to write a book, write and publish a book. So that was my goal in elementary school. And so, I mean, I wrote short stories, poems, all those types of things. Journaling was really important for many, many, many years. And then at some point in around 2000, um, for a while, like, how life is, right? You get married, your life kind of goes on hold for a while. So you don't really get to
Mhm.
do a lot of the things that you're really passionate about because they're on hold. And
Yeah.
so for a good 10 years or so, I couldn't write. I was too busy. And then a moment came where, it's like God opened the doors and poof, like it all just unlocked again, So it was kind of, it's embarrassing to say, but when terrible writing,
Oh,
it
really?
was just awful. I'm like, no, I can't believe this is what I was writing. But somewhere, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, it's like
So
it's like
yeah,
the
so
first draft of a work, right? Usually the first draft, you
yes.
write it and then you look back at it and you're thinking it's just a horrible mess. And then that's where the shaping in comes in.
Exactly. So, I mean, in that respect, it's fun because you can look back and say, okay, this is where I started. And then over the years, you see your evolution and your growth, and even the themes that you're writing about, how you're writing about them, they also evolve too. So
Mm.
it's all part of, your creative journey, but also your personal journey as well. So it's a fun, they go hand in hand.
Yes. So it's always been the case for you that your life, your personal life, has been intrinsically tied with your creative process.
Yeah, because I tend to write by like inspiration. Like I'm not one of those people who just like sit down and just write cold like that. Like it usually starts with, I don't know, something. It used to be like a sound, or I'd hear like certain rhythms in my head, or I'll have certain pictures or colors, or just like a shot of something happening, and it's like, oh, and then it's off.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, especially as I was getting older in my life, I would kind of write about things that I was going through. And the thing that was fun about that was that you could express things in a story that's still very personal, but
Mm.
um, without totally exposing yourself, because people will connect maybe to the emotion and what's going on without you really having to say, this is what I'm going through. So you can
Yeah.
still have that connection with the people that are reading your work, disguised through a story in a sense. And yeah, exactly. And it was fun to kind of see how people would respond, and you kind of go, all right, somehow I latched on to an emotion or an idea that somebody else could connect with as well. So it was kind of like a conversation of sorts through
Mm.
creative writing.
Very, very true. And
Mm.
how did you go from this world of writing to editing and putting together an e-zine? Because this is what we're talking about,
Yeah.
the Lost Pen magazine. So how did you move? Because they're both very different in function.
Yes.
But there are similarities too, but there are a lot of big differences. So how did you even come to that decision or that inspiration of, oh, I should put together an e-zine for Christians out there?
Ooh. How much time do we have?
Okay, maybe not the short story or the long story, the story in the middle.
In the middle, okay. Well, when I was starting, because my real writing story started around 2010-ish.
Okay.
And at that point, the whole self-publishing was starting to become more popular. There was a lot more people getting into independent writing. And so when I started, it was a very lonely process at the beginning. And through, at the time, there was like autonomy and like different writing groups and online resources that, you kind of hook up with people and you kind of become friends with people.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of spend a lot of time critiquing each other's work and building relationships and connections that way. And so that really saved me, and I learned a lot by some of my friends were editors, some of them were more experienced writers, and so we really fed each other that way.
Okay.
And at the same time, like that's also how I started getting a more critical, analytical eye to what I was writing and other people's work, and understanding better how to adapt and correct and revise and all that stuff to have something that's a much more polished and finished product than what we started with.
Yeah.
And so that was one thing. And at that point, blogging was very different than it is now. It was very much more personal, more relaxed. It was much more, hey, my experience, come experience it with me kind of a thing, as to 10 steps to how you do this, blah, 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 So it's they're like very, very different. So I wanted to, my first blog was called, oh my goodness, Dropped Pebbles. And it was really a way to embrace new writers like myself, so that we would have like a little space for us that we can just engage, and I could post people's work, and and so it was just more support. And so that value has always been the foundation for everything that I've done since then, whether it was event with the Christian Creative Nexus, which I started 2 years ago, Lost Pen Magazine, even my freelance writing, editing service. So it's like the foundational value is support, help, encourage, build other people up, and hopefully encourage other people to do better.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think a huge part of writing and this whole community is all about, is community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being there for each other and learning from each other. And it's really interesting how you touched on how the blogging sphere is very different from when it first started. Because I think I came into blogging about, I'd say, 4 years ago. So I have even seen how it's different, but it even sounds even more different from what you said from 2010, where it was more of a personal thing. And I've kind of noticed how you mentioned that pressure to, it's not so much personal anymore, but you have to output worth. And it's enjoyable to output worth, but at the same time, I find it can be very stressful. Like if you're supposed to be doing it, let's say once a week, and then you come to the day and you're like, I am totally uninspired. I don't know what to write.
Exactly.
And I totally get that. I do. Yeah. But I love that idea that you've always had the need to give back to the community that helped you with, with crafting your craft, which is writing and editing. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was important because I didn't go to university to get a bachelor's and master's in art and lit. Yeah. It was really just hands-on, being in the trenches, having people tell me my stuff was garbage and having to read, you know what I mean? So, and I understand the frustration and the hurt and the hopelessness sometimes, and all the discouragement that can be part of being a creator or being an artist. And so I really wanted to just encourage people a lot to just keep going. And so because I went through it and still go through it, you kind of want to take people by the hand and also help them through it as well.
That's right. That's amazing. So you mentioned that this is a solo project. It's not a team effort. So how much time does this take out of your life to put this all together, each issue, approximately?
Wow. I don't keep track of the hours because I think it would probably scare me to think of how much time goes into it.
Yeah.
Um, there's a certain level of perfectionism that every artist or creative has, right? And so, especially in the first issue, there was a lot of pressure because I wanted it to be as perfect as I could make it. And I wanted people to have like a really comfortable, pleasant reading experience. And I'd never done anything like this before. So it was like, editing, revising. It was just like crazy, crazy. And one of my friends online said to me, you know what, there's a certain point where, you just have to accept that something is ready, even if it's not perfect. And I said, thank God for you. And thank God for that word, because it like lifted like 80% of my stress off. And I just said, and actually, and there was also a word I read in the Bible. I don't have the source in my head, but I remember reading something that said like, I'm going to paraphrase basically, like you something as perfect as you want it, but it's the Holy Spirit that brings the results, so I could kill myself trying to make it perfect, but if the Holy Spirit isn't there to empower it, it's not going to, it's not going to have any effect. And so that also kind of gave me some peace. I just said, look, Lord, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this out of my heart because I love you and I love what I'm doing. And so, just take it. And, mistakes or no mistakes, it's yours, and so that's kind of one of the lessons that I learned, how to let go and just, but it's really a lot of work, from the conception to the production to the editing to the copy editing to the uploading. It takes at least, I would say, 3 to 4 months, and that's on top of my regular work and my other stuff that I do. So I'm always busy, put it that way. But it's a good busy. It's a good busy.
That's amazing. Well,
I'm sorry. I just also want to say I'm not 100% alone. I do have a friend out in Colorado, I think it's Colorado, who helps me with copy editing, and she's also one of my biggest cheerleaders. I also have my husband and my sister, they're both in graphics and the arts, who helped me a lot, understanding how to work in design, how to work with all the different elements of it. So I have that practical help. And I consider them my team. In the daily, in the mounting of it, the correcting and everything else, even just the publicity online, receiving the submissions, vetting them, all of that is pretty much moi.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. So did you have to learn any new skills to put this together? Like, and what did you have to learn? And what did you know?
Thankfully, I did do a copy editing course at Simon Fraser University last year. And so that gave me the foundation for how do you copy edit? What is copy editing? How do you make things correct, clear, consistent, the importance of making things visually pleasant and pleasing for your reader and all those things, so that really helped a lot. And like I said, my husband and my sister, they were the ones that kind of got me involved in InDesign, because I would look at it and go, what is this thing? This horrible program.
What program are you using?
InDesign.
Okay,
yeah. So I finally wrestled it down to the ground to the point where I can use it. But at the beginning, I admit I was like totally overwhelmed. So, but with their support and help and troubleshooting and stuff, I feel comfortable enough now to mount the basics, and then they help me with the fine tuning and making sure everything is like aligned and all the things that I forget how to do. Yeah, they're really great. They're really great.
Okay, I find it kind of sounds similar to formatting, like when you're doing like a book, because I've published my own work as well. And it kind of sounds like formatting, like all the technical stuff, the pagination and then the numbers and the headers. And I'm like it just overwhelms me so much. And I can't stand it. It's the one thing. So I actually have a friend, she's an expert in Word, and I just kind of give it to her and she does it. I try to do some of it, but at some point there's those, you get everything right, and then there's the one page that's totally off and you can't figure it out. And I just please help me. And she does it. So,
that's good.
so
Thank God for those people.
I know, but that's it. It's all about community. Again, you're getting your husband and your sister to help you out and your friend. And that's really amazing that they're there to support you, bringing and giving back to your communities. So
yes,
it's pretty amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah. And what's your favorite part of building each issue?
There's a lot that I enjoy about it. I mean, being a right brain and left brain person, it's fun to be able to create and also use, logic and structure to that, So, and the fun thing about magazines is it's a super visual medium. So you've got the written part, but then you also have the images and the layout and like all that stuff, which is bringing your message together in a spread, and ultimately in the magazine. And you hope that by the time the person opens it and finishes it, that they had an experience and that they kind of and the message that you were gearing for when they first picked it up. So that's a lot of fun. I also love the feedback, when people tell me like, hey, this story really touched me, or, I'm really motivated or encouraged or whatever. I mean, that's kind of what we do this for, is to communicate something to somebody and hope that they respond, So
yeah,
those are some that I enjoy the most. Yeah.
And what about your least favorite? Lots of those.
Yeah. Like I think it's just the constant insecurity of, is it good enough? Did I do enough? Is it really ready? Are people going to understand it? Are they going to like it? Is there something in or that I missed? That's so all the doubts, I guess, and the insecurities that like come with the release of any book or any project that you would put out. And again, because there's like that perfectionism in there and just the expectations, is kind of like constantly fighting that and just like, look, just relax.
So is that what you do? Is that what you tell yourself to get over those doubts? Just relax, leave it.
Yeah, and just like, again, just kind of like, God, just do what you're gonna do. I'm just doing my best for you, and just trusting that it's good enough for you. And ultimately, I think, when I strip away all the other stresses and everything, my stress is God going to be happy? Is he going to be pleased? Did I follow, his instructions? Did I meet his expectations? I guess that's kind of what I'm saying. And it's funny because I hadn't told that to anybody in the last issue. But my friend, the one that helps me out, that's out in Colorado, she wrote me an email. In the email, she wrote me, that God is pleased with the work that I did. And I just started bawling like right away, because I was like, that's waiting to hear. And I'm like, nobody knew that I prayed that prayer, but and I was like, just floored. So I was like, thank
you. That is amazing. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, I was like really, just amazed. And so that encouraged me to keep going and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's super important to just have that still small voice, breathe the peace on you as you're going through a project. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then with your friends saying that just tops the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so Lost Pen Magazine, tell us what it's about and what is the mission or calling that you have for it.
Lost Pen Magazine, I kind of laugh when I think about it, because it wasn't planned. It was really one of those things where I had just finished the copy editing course, and the website, the Christian Creative Nexus, was up and running and everything. And I don't know, I was just wanting to do something else. And I just kind of woke up and I was just like, why don't I? Oh, that's what it was too. Out of the blue, one of my old contacts had emailed me and asked me to submit a story to one of their E-zines. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, this doesn't look that complicated. You know what I mean? Like it was really well done, but I was like, this is doable. And I think that was probably turning in the back of my head for a while without me realizing it. And then I woke up and I was like, why don't I just try?
Wow.
So it was pretty crazy. And I actually, on Facebook, I had just put a little post about, I'm thinking of doing this. Is anybody interested? And I think in that weekend, like 40 people like contacted me like pretty much right away. And I said, okay, well, there's an interest, so let me just do this. So I didn't know what I was doing or how I was going to do it, but the Lord provided the resources and the people and information that I needed to do it. And ultimately, oh my goodness, what it's about is going back to the original issue that I had when I was writing about just feeling lost. Like I had something I wanted to share through writing, and I just didn't always find a place for it. And, being a Christian writer who doesn't always write overtly Christian material, kind of felt like, where am I supposed to submit my stuff? Like other places it has to be overtly Christian, or it can't be about spaceships. It can't be, you know what I mean? Like there's like certain, right? So I wanted to kind of have a place where it didn't matter what genre or what style, or, as long as it was a God-centered, Christ-centered piece of art, created work, or whatever it is, that it would have a home. And so Lost Pen magazine basically kind of came from that, draw people to you who are like you, who are looking for a place, and then do what you can to lift them up and give them a platform to share their stories, to share their work with other people. And it was also a desire to do it in a very humane way. So I try to be very responsive. I try to be very engaging with the people that I talk to. Sometimes if something isn't quite there, I'll give some constructive criticism. I've also edited people's stuff so they can see for themselves and then see if they agree. And if they agree, you know what I mean? So I try to work with people as much as I can, because I know it's hard. And it's not, you don't always find a soft place to land in this business. So, and I figure if I can do that for people, maybe they'll be even more encouraged to keep going once they are finished with Lost Pen. Maybe they'll feel like, okay, I'll submit to Christianity Today or whatever it is,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a form, I think, too, to kind of, you can do it, guys. Just, we'll start here and then go up to the next level, to the next level, to the next level.
That's right. It's finally getting a yes after all the no's that are very normal for a writer to get a lot of rejection.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's it. Once you, as you said, once you've done this step, then you're like, okay, I have a little bit more confidence in my abilities to submit to maybe something that's starting up, or a little smaller company. You go to something bigger, and then bigger, and then bigger, and then bigger, and then they can just reach the moon from there.
Yeah, that's it.
It all starts with little steps. So I think that's amazing that you enable authors to have that confidence and to be like, well, here's a place where you can put your stuff and people are going to want to read it and they're going to feel from it and learn from it. And I saw that with each issue you have a specific topic. How do you come about with your specific topics? Is there like a verse that you read from the Bible and then you're inspired, or is it a life lesson that you learn and then you grab a verse for that, or how does that come about?
Really randomly. For the first issue, it was deep into deep. And I think, most of especially my poems when I was growing up was just really almost like Psalms in a sense. It was very much the pain that I'm going through. Where are you? What's happening? And so, that was maybe where I was too at that point. I'm not really sure. But I was just praying. I was like, Lord, it would be a lot easier to do this magazine if there was a theme. Then I could build the magazine around one core idea. And as I was, I think I was just walking into my bedroom and poof, Deep Unto Deep kind of dropped into my head. And I was like, oh, I can relate to that. and so I found the verse. And so that was the theme for that episode, for that issue.
Yeah.
The second issue is Beauty for Ashes. And that's one of my absolute favorite images. Is ones that I wrote about it in my letter from the editor in this issue, and just how it's encouraged me, throughout my life to just remember that no matter what I've gone through, there's a purpose for it, and used by God to do something amazing, And that really resonated with a lot of people. And I got some really amazing submissions and honest submissions. And I'm really excited for people to see it. I think those are the stories that people relate to. And I hope that people will, there's testimonies, there's devotionals. I even have spoken word this time, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
But I hope just be like, really just like, wow, there's people out there like me who are struggling, but who are still, they haven't given up, and taken from their hardship, and the Lord's turned it into something amazing. And so hopefully it'll encourage other people.
Yeah.
And did I have a theme for the third one?
Yeah. Do you have one yet for the third one?
I do. Oh, thank you, God. Brain was seizing for a second. It's on the theme is on reconciliation, and the idea is that if we draw close to God, He'll draw close to us. And one of the main thing that became even more concrete to me recently was that, as Christians and as creative Christians, part of our purpose and function is to create. God gave us that ability to do it. And so one of the things that I hope that people understand from the Lost Pen magazine is the importance of embracing their creativity and using it for the purpose that it was given to them, reconciling ourselves to our purpose and to our life's purpose that's been ordained by God. And so that's all of those themes are kind of mixed into this upcoming issue. So
that's exciting.
And we'll see where it goes, but I'm really excited to get started on that one.
And are you guys open to submissions for the third issue yet?
Yes. I opened submissions January 3rd.
Okay.
Officially. Yes, my dates are all mixed up. January 6th. And it's going 31st. So that's the current period that we're in right now. All the information is on the website too. So all the information about what we're looking for, how to submit, what to do if you have questions, all that stuff is online.
Very cool. And so we're just going to end with a call to action. What do you want the listeners, people who are viewing this video now, what do you want them to do or to get out of it?
Well, what I would hope is that people will read it. It'll be available for download via MailChimp, and I also will be uploading it to Issue, so you can have two different types of reading experiences. Issue is fun because it looks like an online magazine, the pages flip and all that stuff. But if you want to download it so you can read it on the bus or whatever it is, you can do that through the MailChimp version. And I guess my hope is that people will share it for one, with people that they think will enjoy it, that they'll also communicate with the contributors, because that's how they get engaged, and that they know that what they've shared has connected with someone. And if the Lord lays it on someone's heart to want to partner up with us or want to support us or whatever it is, that would be great too. I mean, the magazine is offered for free. I don't consider it a business. I consider it a ministry. So all the time that we give is our own free time. But it would be nice to grow our team a little bit more, so we have more input, more resources, more hands on deck to kind of take it to the next level too. So that's another thing I'm open to as well.
Very cool. So I'm guessing all these things people can do on your website?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you tell us your website, and if you have a Twitter handle and all your social media accounts.
Ooh, okay. So on Facebook, I'll start with that. There's the Lost Pen magazine page, and there's also the Lost Pen mag group. And the group, it's a little bit more active, because those are people who have contributed to the magazine, or people who actively, support it and believe in it and just want to be part of the whole process. Those are ways that people can get involved. On Instagram, you can follow us at lost.pen.magazine. That's the handle for that. On Twitter, it's at Delia Talent, and it's a little bit confusing, I know, but it's the process has evolved over the last 2 years from one website to another website, rebranded to another website. So you might see a lot of different handles and names and stuff. So please forgive me. I'm working on, getting it all ironed out one day. So
Yeah.
Delia Talent is the handle for Twitter.
Okay.
And the website is www.deliatalent.wordpress.com. Or you can just put the Lost Pen Magazine and it'll pop up.
Awesome.
That makes it easier.
There's my cold coming in.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you and just kind of bring out those nuggets from your life that I'm sure people are really going to relate to and see your passion and talent for this and really want to either support you by reading the magazine or partnering with you in different ways. And I'm wishing you all the success in the world with the upcoming issue, and the issue number 2 is out right now, right?
February 3rd.
Oh, February 3rd. Okay. February 3rd. Everyone sign up. And
yes, please.
Yeah, sign up, read it, and then spread the word to your friends and your family and whoever you think likes art and literature. So, which is a lot of people. So yeah, and I'm praying that, God has his hand on this and that you're just a blessing to everyone that comes into contact with this magazine and authors and readers alike.
So,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for giving me a chance to talk about my magazine, the passion that God put in my heart for it, and just to hopefully encourage some people out there that, you don't have to be famous, you don't have to be anything big, you can just be an ordinary Joe or Jane with to do something interesting, and, just with passion and with the Lord, you can do so much more than you ever thought possible, because I never saw myself doing this 10 years ago, trust me.
Wow.
And,
so, yeah, no, you never know what life's awesome. Gonna bring your way and what the Lord
absolutely
bring your way, and yeah, that's amazing.